the traffic in Los Angeles. It says something that local officials warned motorists about a temporary roadwork closure on the 405 last year by calling it Carmageddon. Angelenos took the hint, and this weekend they're expected to steer clear of the latest 405 closure, named, of course, Carmageddon 2. That's how it is in L.A., a snarl of overstuffed freeways and commuters who keep their cool, except when they don't. KPCC's Stephen Cuevas has this profile of a punk rocker whose music expresses the insanity of L.A. traffic while extolling the virtues of public transit.
Couple of things you need to know about Eddie Solis. He lives in L.A., loves the band Kiss, and does not own a car.
Being someone who's from L.A., born and raised, and, having a few cars in my past, I saw the city much differently, through a different perspective, through the eyes of a bus rider.
Want to just go all the way to the back? Sure.
Line 18, Wilshire, Western Station.
Just steps from the front door of his home, across the street from a tortilla factory in LA's Boyle Heights neighborhood, Solis catches a bus that connects him with the city's subway and the commuter train he catches to his day job at an indie record label in Hollywood.
It just opened me up to little neighborhoods, galleries, clubs, bars, just everything. Just seeing what's out there, little pockets of the city.
Solis's journeys aboard LA buses and subway cars informs a lot of the material on The New Los Angeles Part 1, Through the Eyes of a Bus Rider, the latest release by the singer-guitarist band It's Casual. In Solis's vision of a new Los Angeles, people abandon their cars, climb aboard public transit, and rediscover their communities. One song extols the virtues of the LA County Metropolitan Transit Agency's Easy Pass and the urban underbelly it introduces to the rider.
And that's a nod and homage to, the people who know what you could even go cheaper and really beat the system and really steer away from spending money on gas and oil profits and all that. Is all it takes for me to witness racial tension, for me to witness illegal aliens. It's not to paint a negative picture, it's just my perspective of what is seen.
Off the bus and back on the street, we make our way past a jazz saxophonist playing for pocket change and down a long escalator to catch a train. So, where are we now?
We're at the Red Line station, the Pershing Square station in downtown LA.
And what's our destination?
We're going to go downstairs another tier, and about 5 minutes we're going to get on the Red Line going northbound.
Okay, let's go. The Metro Red Line snakes from North Hollywood to downtown Los Angeles. It's the train that inspired It's Casual's signature tune and spawned a viral internet video. It was partly filmed late at night on a moving train as it hurtles from station to station. Solis thrashes away on his guitar and barks the lyrics, which celebrate the Red Line and call out the congested freeways that coil around Los Angeles.
Este es un tren del Metro Red Line a North Hollywood.
The 210, the 605, the freeways are not so nice. The I-5, the 210, the freeways are not so nice.
The thread that comes out of the record that ties everyone together is just be alive. Don't be a victim of having a car.
An MTA spokesman said he couldn't comment on Eddie Solis's furious pro-Metro message, but the Red Line video was a hit at the offices of Move LA.
Eddie's done a good job. Thank you, Eddie.
It's the public transportation advocacy group headed by former Santa Monica Mayor Denny Zane. He liked the juxtaposition of Solis blissfully riding LA public transit in one scene with scenes of the band raging against those notorious freeway jams.
Eddie is all frantic when he talks about highways and so mellow when he's grooving on a skateboard and on the bus and on the Red Line. There's a metaphor for the transformation, from the, oh my God, I just got to get out of the traffic to, hey, this is cool, I can mellow out.
Or you can blast the tune like Too Many People as you claw your way across Los Angeles by car, bus, or skateboard.
Los Angeles, there's too many people. I want them to go away, even though it means they're afraid.
Too Many People could also be a motto for It's Casual. Over the years, the band whittled itself down to a power duo of Solis and a rotating cast of drummers. So you may think the burly, bearded punk rocker just can't get along with freeways, with people, or his native L.A. Not true.
I love it. I love everything about it. I've traveled throughout the U.S. many times, and I could never look forward enough to coming back. The weather, the different cultures, the landscape. I was just like, you know what? Now I know everyone moves to L.A.
Solis will bring the love and the volume during a Red Line mini tour next month. It's Casual will play a different venue within walking distance of several Red Line metro stops from Union Station to West Hollywood. For the California Report, I'm Stephen Cuevas.
That's the California Report, a production of KQED Public Radio in San Francisco. Our director this week is Nina Thorson. Sil Muller is our technical producer. We had additional engineering from Danny Bringer and Howard Gelman. Thanks to Hank Hadley at KCBX. Our online team includes Lisa Pickoff-White, David Marks, and Don Clyde. Our interns are Catherine Borgeson and Rachel Johnson. Tyke Hendricks is our elections editor with production help from Tina Lauerberg. We had editing support from Paul Rogers. Victoria Mauleon is our associate senior producer. Ingrid Becker is our senior producer. The news director is Bruce Kuhn. I'm Rachel Myro. Thanks for listening and have a great weekend. This is the California Report.
Funds for the California Report are provided by the James Irvine Foundation, expanding opportunity for the people of California and supporting the California Report since its premiere in 1995. And the California Endowment. Health happens in schools at calendow.org. And Chevron, investing in renewables, strengthening communities, and creating jobs. More information at chevron.com.
The 210, the 605, the freeways are not so nice. The I-5, the 210, the freeways are not so nice. The 101, the 405, the freeways are not so nice. The I-5, the I-10, the freeways are not so nice. The 210, the 605, the freeways are not so nice. I-5, the I-10, the freeways are not so nice. The red line, 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 the 210, the 605, the freeways are not so nice. The I-5, the I-10, the freeways are not so nice. The 101, the 405, the freeways are not so nice. The 605, the 101, the 101, the 101, the I-10, the 210, the 605, the 101, the 405, the I-10, the freeways are not so nice. The red line, 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 the red line.
Hey, welcome to the 111th episode of Los Angeles Nista. I'm the show creator, producer, and host, Edward Solis. And this is another Southern California episode, as always, but we're going to specifically speak about areas like Claremont and Upland. And with great honor, it's my 111th in-studio guest, Mr. Steve Alba, also known as Salba. How are you, man?
Going on, buddy? Good to be here.
Thank you. I really want to dive into a lot. Music, skateboarding, favorite spots in Claremont, etc. When I look at you, I look at someone who's fully committed to the sport of skateboarding and has influenced many generations and have also really articulated what skateboarding is with your skateboarding style. And how far back can you go in memory, remembering when you actually stepped foot on a skateboard? Do you remember what year that was when you put your foot on a skateboard for the first time?
I first started in 1974.
74.
I was like 6th grade going in 7th grade.
And
it might have even been 5th grade going to 6th grade. I had to like make sure the grades all jive up, but definitely it was 74. I was like 10 years old.
Wow.
So basically what happens is my friend's brother had a skateboard, Gary Lazone, and they lived just like a block or two from us. And a lot of us played baseball together, like on, Little League. And Gary was a little, like 2 years older than us. And just from the baseball field, he would kind of kick around. He would kind of practice on a skateboard. We always thought that was kind of cool. But then we was kind of like, hey, can we borrow your board? And he's like, okay, you can borrow my board for a little bit. He kind of like was amused by us, let's put it that way. And then eventually we can kind of like stand on it and go down the street. And he had lived on a little bit of hill that both sides of the sidewalk, one went left and one went right. So we thought we were kind of like sidewalk surfing along the bricks and had a little bit of incline. So that, from the very get-go, we kind of like learned about speed and learning how to check your speed, because if you didn't make the corner, if you didn't do it right, you'd fly to the street kind of trip, you know what I mean? Because it had a pretty good, it's almost like a 90, but just the way it curved and the way you could do it was a little tricky, you know what I mean?
Right.
So we would just kick turn like around Coke cans, slalom around like Mountain or whatever, Pepsi cans at that point, because Mountain Dew wasn't out yet, and jump over broomsticks, that was a big thing. Click clacks, 360s, very minimal compared to what's going on nowadays. And a lot of times we didn't even ride with shoes in the very beginning too. We never rode with shoes, and we didn't even wear shoes a lot. My dad would always get mad because we'd cut our feet up all the time. So eventually we got kind of good, not as good as Gary, but I was kind of like getting to where I can like do like one-footed nose wheelies, which are manuals nowadays, tail wheelies, daffies with two boards, kind of like Laura Thornhill did. And eventually he's all like, kind of got a little bit jealous of like, he's getting kind of good, like, dude, you can't use my skateboard anymore, get your own damn board kind of thing.
So he cut you off because you're getting good.
Yeah.
Got really competitive,
definitely
right?
Cut me off, you know what I mean? So at that point we had to like get our own boards. And my dad was working for Hooker Headers. They made headers for all the dragsters. I'd always go to the drag races when I was a kid. Winter Nationals every year. It fell like on the same week as my birthday a lot of times.
Okay.
So my dad, I got to meet like Don Garlos when I was a kid, and Mickey Thompson, and Donna Snake Prudhomme, just through that, because it was a cool little deal from the racing. But anyhow, they made skateboards, is what I'm getting at. And my dad brought home one of those skateboards one day, fiberglass double kick. And back in those days, they still had sure grips, and the wheels were 8 bell bearings per side. They weren't precision bearings yet, So, I did ride clay wheels originally. My friend's board, one of his boards was clay wheels. The other one had like maybe roller sports when those first came out, like the very first urethane wheel with the bearings, which were still, people don't understand this, when you had 8 ball bearings per side, you had a D cone and a D nut, and the axles weren't all the way like they are nowadays. They had like a D cut through them, so they put the D washer on and all that. And so if you lost one bearing out of your whole trip, you were ruined. You were walking the rest of the day. So that was the other thing, is like once precision bearings came in, like that was such a godsend to us, because we all went to the loose ball bearing phase of trying to, and half the time like we'd skate and we didn't really like, mom and dads couldn't give us a ride because they were at work. So sometimes we'd take the bus. Our way was called the Omnitrans back in those days. Still
Omnitrans,
is.
yeah.
So we would take it to the top of Euclid, and then just bomb Euclid all the way down back to our house, because it was like the base of the mountains, almost where Baldy Pipe is, and we'd shoot it all the way back down. It was like 25 streets worth.
Wow.
So it was kind of like crazy.
So like that's where you learned your downhilling chops.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow.
That was one of the first things. Like even before we even rode in pools, we were going down hills, bombing hills, because it was like a fun thing to do, and it was giving that kind of a adrenaline rush.
Going fast.
You know, and even though like we still kind of like rode bikes still, and we're playing baseball, we're getting into skating, and I rode a bike in a pool first before we even skated in a pool.
Really? At Pipeline?
No, this is before Pipeline, like way before Pipeline. It's like, if I'm starting to skate in 74, we're buying bikes and pools, definitely like summer of 74 for sure. And then probably like that fall, that's when we probably started skating in pools. Basically the same thing happened. We followed Gary Lazone, the kid that, I hung out with Bob as his younger brother. And like Gary was like our god in our neighborhood in those days. He was like the first dude that like had his own guitar. He like had Cream magazine, and
god.
He had like these magazines like Trouser Press that he ordered from New York City. So he would always show us like these crazy magazines of like he was the first dude to ever show us Kiss or like Alice Cooper.
You guys just flipped when you saw that, right?
Bowie, and like check out these dudes. They dress up like girls, but listen to their music. I heard it on the radio. You know what I mean? Like you hear like Diamond Dogs, stuff like that. Like what? Like Ziggy Stardust. We'd be like, who's this freak dressing like a girl? But listen to his music. It's so cool. So we were really. I think even then I was really into music, but I didn't have a clue how to play anything. And we would like go in his room and use like tennis rackets and get the drums, like pots and pans, and beat them with like wooden spoons and do the full Kiss trip.
Right.
And Kiss like 75 rolls around. We're like after night Kiss for Halloween kind of thing. You know what I mean? So anyhow, we were following Gary all over the place because he was just like our mentor, so to speak. And he goes down this alleyway one day. And the alleyway was called Stoner Alley. And on the top end is where all like the surfer wannabe stoner kids lived. And on the bottom end is where all the Mexicans lived. So he was like, he just didn't go down an alley because there was always fighting. And all the Mexicans would always like kind of fight the gangbanger kind of quasi kids, or always fighting with the stoner, hippie, long haired kids. And we're like going like, what are these guys doing going down this alley where they know better and we know better? So we're standing at the top of the alley just watching them. It's like 4 or 5 houses down, they jump over a fence. They're like, what are they doing? Like, what the hell? So, like, we kind of, like, run down. We see him jump over another fence because we're at the first fence already. And then we can't see him. But all of a sudden, we hear this swish, like the swoosh of... Like, whoa, what is that? What's that noise? You know what I mean? We couldn't figure it out for the life. I was like, what? Because we'd never heard it before. And then, like, we heard him, like, one of the guys threw his board back over the fence, and we saw him kind of coming backwards, so we ran and hid, so they didn't see us. And as they left, we jumped over the fence, and then we jumped over the other. Oh, they were skateboarding in a backyard swimming pool.
Wow.
The pool's empty. And this time, like, by 75 rolls around, California's in a major drought. They can't fill up anything. You can't water your lawn, you know what I mean? And you get fined for it. So all the pools that were drained at that time, they couldn't fill up with water. So after that very first pool, which was Central Pool, that was the very first pool I skated, probably like late 74, early 75. And then ever since then, I've just been like on this pool Jones I've just been like on this mad adventure to skate, find as many backyard pools as I can, you know what I mean? And that's kind of what I'm known for. But that's kind of how it all started was then when I was a kid, back when I was like 10, 11 years old right in there.
So was that like 75?
Yeah.
And that's when you first heard the sound of wheels on a pool.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And what city would that be in?
Well, I lived in Montclair at the time.
So that was in Montclair.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, so from that point forward, you're downhilling, you discover pools. When did you skate your first pool?
Well, that was when. Like,
that was when, right there.
Like down that alleyway, we skated the pool that day after we saw those guys jump out of the pool. And we knew we couldn't get caught in there because it was their pool.
Right. Locals only, right?
So we had to skate for maybe half hour and leave. So eventually, the story goes, 3 or 4 months later, they catch us in there and they're pissed because they're older than us. We're like 10, 11 years old, dude. These dudes are like, 13, 14, 15.
And that's a big difference when you're growing up.
Oh, yeah, dude. It's like talking from junior high to high school. That's like a big, you know what I mean? You're getting armpit hair and all that shit, you know what I mean? And people are, you're going through your puberty and all that kind of shit. So anyhow, he's all like, hey, like, you guys can't be here. You guys got to get the hell out of here. And then one of the other dudes pipes up, all like, dude, no, let's see what they got. Let's see what they could do it. Which was kind of my saving grace because he's all like, okay, like, one of the goes, okay, if you guys can go to the light, you can stay.
If you hit the light.
Like, go over it. Cause,
carve over it.
So, like, I was like the only dude who could do it. So like they made everybody leave but me. And he come puts their arm around me, and they're all, Alba. I wasn't Steve or Salva yet or whatever. It was just Alba. Alba, you're okay. You can stay.
You can stay.
And all my buddies were like just crushed because they're like, you guys get the hell out of here.
So they got 86.
So they left. So like they're like kind of looking at me, and I'm kind of looking at them, and like I'm so proud like I could actually stay. But then I was one of the boys. I go, okay, I'll come back later, man. I want to go with my boys.
Right.
And they were kind of like, okay. And so like later on, we heard like, oh, like, you know, we like Alba, man. He stuck up for his friend and left. That's cool. So they even liked me even more.
Because
so,
after you went with your friends, like, you were loyal.
So like they actually, after that, we found another pool on Holt Boulevard. And then actually that's the pool I rode my bike in first. The very first pool I ever rode a bike in was at Holt Boulevard pool, Holton Mountain. It was right down the street from my dad's work at Hooker Headers. In Holton Mountain, there's a big overpass right there where the train goes under there.
Yeah.
And on the other side of the train tracks, right there is there's banks underneath the overpass. So we would go skate our pool, Central Pool, then ride our bikes to Holt Pool and skate that pool, and then go under the underpass and skate the banks under the underpass. And then from there, we didn't know about Baldy Pipe yet, but we were already exploring like the sewers, so to speak, like the drainage. So under Mountain Avenue, where all the curbs are, and you could see all like the gutters.
Yeah.
We started riding our bikes up that just to see what would happen. We started like under the tunnels. We were like, we called ourselves tunnel rats.
Tunnel rats.
Because we were all like, one of my friend's dad was in the Vietnam War. And he just told us like when he was like in his platoon or whatever, that there was this guys called the tunnel rats that would go into tunnels and look for the VC. So we were just like, oh man, like this is our little version of being a tunnel rat. We ride our bikes in the tunnels, and maybe we're gonna see a rat and maybe get scared, but we'll be okay. And then like sometimes we didn't have flashlights. We take our papers. I was a paper boy at the same time. I had a paper route. And one of my other friends was a paper boy. So all our extra papers, we would take and wad them all up and then burn them like as torches so we could see in the dark, because it was dark down there. You couldn't see, you know what I mean? It was like the tunnels were made like 8 feet tall. So we rode our bikes in that a lot. So I think that was how my whole like thing of finding pipes later, because I was already going these tunnels when I was a kid, and I wasn't afraid to go in the dark.
So that was where you learned your chops, like how to do it.
Yeah,
like,
I guess.
This is adventure out.
Yeah. It's like, this is adventure time. Let's go. So it was like our little version of Huck Finn, even though we weren't living on the Mississippi River.
Right.
We had to make do in our little suburban wasteland, or our little suburban jungle, wherever we were as kids, you know what I mean? But that's what we did. You know what I mean? We didn't live at the beach. We didn't get to surf like all the kids. Like, we wanted to surf so bad, we were wannabe surfers. You know what I mean? So because we couldn't surf, we skateboarded. That was kind of was our thinking, you know what I mean? And like, the other thing is, when I was growing up in the 70s, when you were a kid in the 70s, dude, you had 3 choices. You were either in a gang, you're either a jock, or you're either like the wannabe surfer dude.
Right.
You know what I mean? And those were your 3 choices. And that was that, dude. And I didn't want to be any of those. You know, my dad's like, you can't be in a gang, you can't be drinking, because, you know.
That's bad stuff,
kinda,
right?
Yeah. I wasn't really a jock dude, because I didn't really understand sports, even though I was kind of playing Little League and playing pop porn and that kind of trip. But, yeah, so I don't know, just skateboarding, even from the get-go, it was just like this thing that I couldn't understand. You can't describe it being on a skateboard unless you actually skateboard. Let's put it that way. You know what I mean? It's like one of those feelings you can't really, you can talk about it all day long, but until you actually do it, it's like surfing. You can talk about surfing all day until you actually do it and catch your own wave. It was a 2-foot wave or whatever, but you caught it. So that feeling is insane. You know, just that adrenaline rush or whatever. So the same thing applies to pools. It's when you start getting vertical and start going over the lights and start going over like those side stairs that you're meant to climb out of the pool, you know, and that kind of thing. You know, it was a different thing than how we approach pools now, you know, because then pools, you kind of more try to stay in the bowl, kind of like the Dogtown guys, because you kind of were looking at what they were doing in the magazines and seeing what they were doing too. And even though we were all doing it at the same time, they were the first guys to get the coverage of it. You know what I mean?
Probably because they were like out in LA proper, maybe. There was
that's true too. But see, Stesic, who took all the photos for them. I mean, I know Stesic real good this day. He's like one of my mentors. And Stesic's really good in the sense that I know his history well. And his history is his dad was a photographer in World War II.
Wow.
And after the bomb hit in Japan, his dad's unit was the first guys to go down and take the photos of all of it. So after the war, Stesic's dad had all these cameras and movie stuff laying around the house. So he had this interest to start taking photos. And it just happened to be the dude that captured that, you know, at that time. If it wasn't Stesic, it would have been someone else. But thank God it was Stesic, because he's the guy that gave us these whole classic images and the whole myth of Dogtown and the whole, everything about that, you know what I mean?
You captured that moment, truly.
Yeah, so, you know, to this day, you know, as later as I get, you know, as I turned pro a little bit later into my skating history, you know, 75, we're skating L-Pool a lot. This is before pipelines even built. And we're skating Baldy Pipe a lot. This is the same time the guys in Dogtown are doing their trip. Same guys, you know, in San Diego are doing their trip. Same guys in San Francisco are doing their trip, you know, like Rick Blackheart and those guys like San Jose are doing their thing. So later on, like 2 years down the line, 77, 78 rolls around and all the skate parks are made. I get to hang out with Stessy quite a bit, and I'm one of the guys he picks to go on these pipe trips. So, like, the very first time we go to Texas, like, on this big major pipe trip, I'm a 15-year-old kid, but I get to go with all these, like, you know, 18, 19-year-old girls, and Stessy's even older than us, but there was only 5 of us on a trip, and I was one of the lucky guys included. So I was like, I've always looked at Stessy like, wow, like, that really meant a lot to me as a kid. And later on, is like, even though he started that whole aesthetic, I still to this day take really a lot of photos of pools. And what I call my pool aesthetic shots, from taking photos of like the pool stairs, the pool like death boxes or the filter boxes and the lights, and I'm presenting them in a different way that maybe the most populace wouldn't see it, because I see pools in a different way than most people. So I try to present these pictures from my eye and like
your perspective.
My perspective, you know, that kind of trip. So, but it all comes from him, though. You know what I mean? Because he was the first guy that kind of did it, and you know, and the other thing is, you know, Mofo from Thrasher magazine, and when Thrasher first started, Mofo was the main guy who was writing stories. But outside of Mofo and KT writing the stories, some of the first dudes they got to write stories for Thrasher was me and Brian Brandon.
Really?
So they came to us and said, hey, you know, we need some stories. So that's kind of what got my whole interest in writing. But I wrote because Mofo inspired me. Mofo was inspired from Stessy, and I was inspired from Stessy.
So how old were you when you were writing for Thrasher and skating?
I mean, when Thrasher started back, like 82, so I'm like, I'm 19, going on 20.
So you're already pro?
Yeah. I've been pro for a while, right? I turned pro when I was 15.
Okay.
So, yeah, like where we lived, they called it the Badlands. And skate talk, skate myth, skate lore. You know, the Dogtown guys lived in Santa Monica, Venice.
Right.
The Down South guys were in San Diego. The Fogtown guys were in San Francisco. Smogtown was like Midtown in East LA.
Right.
There was like Cowtown, which was Chino.
Okay.
You know, all these places had like their little moniker names.
That's
which is
really
kind of
cool.
You know what I mean? But where we lived in the Badlands, it comprised of an area more or less between the 57 freeway, so say east of the 57 freeway, north of the 60 freeway, east of the 15 freeway, all the way up to the mountains. That was the whole area that comprised of the Badlands, which was like, you know, the towns of Montclair, Ontario, Upland, Claremont, Pomona, Chino, any of that little area. And then a little later on, east of the 15, but kind of came that whole area too, because that's where we started going to skate pools a lot, because it was a poor area than our area. They didn't care as much. It was almost like going to like Compton or South Central. And not that like the people are any worse than anybody, but it's just the houses were in blight. There was lots of foreclosed houses. That's kind of the areas we go to. We like to go to poor areas because abandonment is a skateboarder's paradise. Mm-hmm. People are never going to understand that. How can you have fun just playing on cement? But skateboarding and cement are like this, man. It's like if there was no cement, there'd be no skateboarding.
Exactly.
So the kids, whether you're skating in a pool or skating in the street, it doesn't matter what's made. If it's out there and its architecture and it's built for something else, skateboarders will somehow find a way to make this architecture fit into their scope of things somehow. That's the weird thing about skating. And even what we do in pools, you know, like whoever thought we would skate in a backyard pool and make an art form out of it, but
absolutely.
It is. You know what I mean?
World famous art form.
Yeah, so.
Now, let's back up really quick. One thing I want to bring to light is the fact that you said, you know, growing up, you know, going to be in the gangs, of course. You know, you don't want to be a wannabe surfer. You know, you played some team sports, but you're not the jock. Skateboarding truly represents individuality and a form of expression. So for you, it was a perfect thing because you stood on your own and motivated yourself to go out and learn these you know, different types of how to skate these different types of terrain, whether it was downhilling, you know, or just going down the street fast and slaloming, and pipes, etc., pools. Would you say that once you came into your own through skateboarding, that you fed off your own individuality? Did it just feed you more?
Yeah, I think for sure. Because the whole time I'm growing up skating, my early years, I'm doing dual things. 'Cause I'm still playing Little League, I'm still playing Pop Warner football, and I really like that. My dad was a coach, too.
Okay.
So he really wanted me to not go the bad way, meaning gangs, drugs. So in my mom and dad's mind, they're saying, okay, you can do these things, but not only that, you have to do well in school. So I had to get A's and B's to do what I wanted to do also on top of it all. Because that's just kind of the era we were from, you know what I mean? Kind of like old school, blue collar. You know, if you're going to, dad might, I used to get hit. I'm not going to lie. Get out of line, you get smacked.
But that was a common thing.
Yeah,
back in the day. I mean, I talked to family members and, from all walks of life or friends, and they're like, yeah, like you get swatted, even at school.
Yeah, dude, I got swatted at school a lot. I used to get freaking full on like paddle. So I wasn't like a problem kid, but I was the kind of kid like I wouldn't take shit because we would stick up for ourselves. And I think that all came from skateboarding and from punk rock originally, you know what I mean? But when I won my first contest, say in 78, I was still playing high school football and high school baseball. And I had made the varsity team as a sophomore on both avenues, which in high school sports, that's pretty hard to do. You know what I mean?
Right, it is.
But I was a pure athlete in the sense that I didn't have that jock mentality, but I've always had that athletic mind and that athletic kind of streak, I guess, in my. And so to this day, that's why I'm like a yoga freak, and I run and I ride a bike,
surf.
I try to do all this cross training as much as possible because But I think it all stems back to then. You know what I mean? So basically, what I'm getting at is like, we had a pretty good baseball team, we had a decent football team, but there was a point where like sometimes like you'd lose and some guy would make a mistake, and then some of the other kids, like the jockey kids, like, man, that's kind of lame that you made a mistake. And one of the kids that made a mistake was one of my best buddies, who was a lineman. He was a fat guy.
Right.
Kind of like, was always like lagging behind. It's like, if we would run 2 miles, if you can't run 2 miles in 5 minutes, you're going to run again. If anybody holds you back. So dude, like this guy would hold us back, and like the whole team would start kicking this dude and spitting on him and hitting him. And
that's kind of crummy.
Full bully trip.
Right.
Full on bully trip. You know what I mean? Where like the coaches are bullying him, the team's bullying him, to where like, I was like maybe one or two dudes, the only two dudes that stuck out for him because he was my best buddy. You know what I mean? And it was to the point where like, dude, you got to like kind of buck up, or they're just going to torture you so hard you're going to get out of the team. So I could see the whole aspect of that trip.
Yeah.
And then I won my first contest, and I come back with like $1,000 check, a bottle of champagne, and all the skateboard gear. I can't even use it all. I have boxes of like, dude, we want you to try these wheels. We want you to try these trucks. Oh, dude, I want you to try like this skid plate. Oh, you need to try these bearings. Oh, no, you just need to try like this little nose guard thing right here. So I had all these manufacturers
setting you stuff.
So like, yeah, so that opened my whole mindset. Like, wow, dude. And then my mom, like, when I went to this contest, and this was like all the best skaters. There's Tony Alva, Stacy Peralta, Jay Adams, Dennis Martinez, Pineapple Saladino, Mike Weed. Like, all the hottest dudes of this time are at this contest. The very first contest, the very, very first pool contest ever held, I won. So my mom's all like, go down and try your best, Steve. Don't expect anything. And then all of a sudden I come home with the first place and
$1,000 check.
$1,000. And then my whole mindset changed. I'm like, dude, I don't want to do sports anymore. I want to skateboard. Like, I can make money. What? Really, I can do. This is way funner. So from that day on, I went to my baseball coach and just told him, like, dude, I'm over it. And he was kind of like, he didn't really like me anyway because I was punk. Really getting into punk at that point.
And back then, it wasn't as accepted.
Not even close to being accepted as it is nowadays. I mean, you can go buy punk rock in the mall now.
Always.
You know what I mean? Back then, it was not, you had to go and make your stuff. If I wanted a studded belt, there was no place to go. You had to go to like some biker place, deal with all these biker dudes, and go buy your studs there. Or, looking back, we used to go to the Pleasure Chest on Santa Monica Boulevard in the old days.
All the leather stuff, right?
And to this day, like, that was my favorite place to go, was the Pleasure Chest. Had the raddest stud. And even though I wasn't like a kind of a gay dude, they kind of like accepted us because we were punks going into their trip in there. as long as you're not disrespectful.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because some of my buddies would go in there and they would kind of, you'd see like big black dills or whatever. Blah.
And, you know,
no, man, just
are,
chill. You know, we're not there for that, dude. We're just here to get our little bracelets and get our little stud and leave. And come on, man. You know?
Yeah.
So my mom always taught me, like, dude,
just
you got to be kind of like tolerant of people. And like at one point, my best buddy's Vince Dennis from Body Count. And he's lived with me when he was a kid. Like, he moved in my house, you know, black kid.
I didn't know that.
Back when he was like 13, 14 years old, and went all through high school with us. My mom took him in. So, like, I don't like the N-word because Vince is my best buddy. He's black. You know what I mean?
Right.
We've been through so much, all the punk rock shit together, skateboarding, dude. Me and Vince are like, so, like, dude, I can't even go there with that crap. You know what I mean? But what I'm getting at is my mom is like, hey, man, it doesn't matter the color of your skin. You can be polka dot. And that's the thing, too, being a punk rocker when you're, like, in the 70s, man, you get ostracized all the time. And, like, dude, I've never been black. I'm not going to say I've had that experience, but I've had experience of being picked on and being ostracized because of being a punk rocker and being so downtrodden upon that I almost felt like one of those people could feel.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So
it's linear.
Yeah, it is. So I just like...
Especially back then because...
Yeah, and people were out for blood, dude. If they see you then, they would stop their car and try to, like, totally violently accost you. Dude, I can't even tell you how many times that people would follow me home. There's one time in high school, this guy followed me home because I yell in punk rock side, and I just kind of casually flip him off, and he follows me to my house, pulls me out of my car, and starts beating me in my front yard. You know what I mean? So, like, it was just all kinds of stories where, like, skating, too. I mean, we were, like, at high school, there was, like, 5 skaters who skated. And the 5 skaters who skated were also the 5 dudes who listened to punk rock.
Right.
And then at Chafee High School, there was, like, 8 guys who listened to punk rock and skated. And then, Gary, like, all in our area, there was, like, it was only a core group. There was, like, 20 or 30 of us who
those
skated
3
in
cities.
Yeah, so it was like a small scene. So in those days, everybody knew each other through music or through skating, and we would travel together in packs just because it was safer that way. You know, once we got to that point, you know what I mean?
So skateboarding and punk was the thread that brought the like-minded people together.
Yeah.
That's what it was. I had no idea that first contest that you won that first contest, that first pull contest that ever existed. That's amazing.
Yeah, that's the one thing, like, you know, I really don't like talking about myself too much, whatever, you know, all that kind of crap that goes with it. But that's one thing people can't take away from me. It's like, dude, I won the very first pool contest ever, and maybe didn't deserve it, deservingly so, because I wasn't really as good as some of those guys. It was an endurance contest. The runs were 2 minutes long, and I was like one of the only dudes who could stand for 2 minutes. You know, to this day, like, dude, even on a minute run on a skateboard is so burly. And if you could stay on it a minute, I mean, I don't care, dude, even like Andy Mack or even like Buck Elastic, dude, those guys are the gnarliest dudes, you know, Pedro Barros of today.
Yeah.
Dude, even a minute that's crazy. 2 minutes is like insane. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that was during the first Hester series. The first Hester series started in '78, and that's kind of how it kind of happened was this. They built all the skate parks originally, and all the skate parks got built because they saw us skating in pools. They saw us skating in Baldy Pipe. And for our example, Pipeline Skate Park was built in '77, was the very first skate park ever to offer vertical in a skate park. So that's the other plus that we grew up in. We grew up on extreme vertical at Pipeline because they had a 15-foot bowl with 5 feet of vertical, a 12-foot bowl which had 3 feet of vertical, and a 20-foot full pipe. And this is before they even built the combi pool.
Okay.
So looking back, and if you're going back like 75, 76 rolls around, we're all skating El Pool one day, and El Pool was the old Upland Swim Club on Grove and Foothill and Upland. And we're skating, and it's abandoned, and because it used to be the swim club, there's like one room's got like the daycare room, one room's got like all like the refrigerators and for all the drinks and the milk for the kids, and like refrigerators, freezers, that stove. One room's got like all the pillows or whatever, but it's all abandoned. So we're like, everybody's been taking crap out and just thrashing it. So eventually we're stacking bricks on top of the coping to ride up out of the pool onto a brick, and the pool is 12 feet deep. It's got like 9-foot trannies, 3 feet of vert.
It's a lot of vert.
And then eventually we pushed one of these like refrigerators and stick it on its side. So
for an extension?
For an extension, yeah. So it's 3 feet past the pool. So we're riding up on this thing, past the lip, getting like, 14 feet up on this thing. And Stan Hoffman and Don Hoffman walk up one day, who were the guys who were going to build Pipeline. They're just there to watch us skate and kind of see what's going on. But they start talking to us, and we want to build a skate park. What should we build? Well, you got to build a pool, and you have to build a full pipe because Baldy Pipe is like San Antonio Dam. That's like where Baldy Pipe is. That's where, here's the thing, as I always say, because Tony, I was a little bit older than I am, and the Dogtown guys get all the credit for skating pools before anybody. But we skated pipes before anybody. Pipes in our backyard. It is still there to this day. So one of the longest surviving spots of skateboarding from the 70s that's there to this day.
To this day.
And one of the only spots is still Baldy Pipe.
Okay, now that leads me into the next question is watching your video parts is when I learned about Baldy and then figuring out like in magazines, oh, Baldy, this is like in, Southern California.
Yeah.
And obviously before the internet, you had to work a little harder to find information, So timeline-wise, Pipeline was after Baldy Pipe. Okay.
Yeah. Because Pipeline happened in 77. They built Baldy Pipe, which is San Antonio Dam, in the 50s because there was a 100-year flood up in that area. And they didn't want it to happen again. So they built the flood control channel and the pipe as an emergency spillway for the dam. So all the pipes we skate in all the dams are all emergency spillways. Used for a whole different use again. But somehow we've made usage of it and made it our own. So anyhow, that basically, we're at El Pool. The Hoppins see us who build Pipeline skate parks. Then we tell them about Baldy Pipeline. And one day they meet us up there and watch us skate there. And Baldy Pipeline is only 14.5. Yeah, 14.5. It's a pretty small pipe compared to like whatever things are. But it has flat wall, meaning like the very end of the pipe where it goes round, it kind of goes to a square. And then where the round meets the square, it creates this weird little transitioning.
Like a kink?
Almost, it does kink out, but at the very beginning of it is what we call a flat wall. It's pretty epic right there. It's like your last little hit. It's like the last hurrah. So you go down the pipe and you get this last like a little, it's almost like you're riding a wave and obviously you get to do a cutback kind of trip or whatever.
Wow.
You know what I mean? You're big off the lip kind of thing. You know what I mean? So they see that and so like they just, oh man, we have to build like something like this L pool. We had to build something like this pipe at our skate park. So basically that's where I grew up. Learning how to skate was like an L pool, Baldy Pipe, 25th Street Pool, Central Pool, Egg Bowl, and then later on, Pipeline Skate Park. But at the same time, because we have all these pros coming to Baldy Pipe, I have all these pros coming to L Pool, like guys like Waldo Autry, like Chris Stropel, Wally Inouye, Mike Weed, Tay Hunt, Stacy Peralta. I mean, the list goes on and on. Greg Ayers. I mean, everybody came to those two spots, and they saw us all skating there as kids. So as Pipeline kind of gets built, and all these pros start coming to see this place because it's the first vertical skate park. I mean, Pipeline in the skateboard world is like going to YMA or going to Pipeline in the surf world. It's like the most hectic
place.
Yeah, it's the worst place. It'll rip you up and rip you a new asshole and tear you up. But at the same time, it is the most prestigious place. And if you win a contest at Pipeline Skate Park, that puts you on the map. Like the next day, like if you're an amateur and you win, the next day you're pro. That's how big of an event this place was. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I just happened to get to skate there and grew up there.
That's amazing.
And skate for free. And, once I met the Hoppin family, that my skills kind of got me opened the door, but my skills kind of took me to a whole nother level. And then I got to skate with all these pros as a kid. And it's almost like, being a rock star in a sense where you've created this whole scene that you really don't really know. It's all going on around you, but you really can't take the whole aspect in because it's just been happening your whole life. Your whole lifestyle has been involved and wrapped around this. You don't really see it any other way. But when outsiders tell you about it and tell you like this dude, like you did this and this, and it's hard for you to accept that because like you don't know anything else. Like you just skated your whole life.
You're so into it and committed, like you're there in the moment.
Yeah.
And you're moving forward, but you're not realizing like that you're creating these memories for other people.
Yeah.
Like,
so I mean, my thing is like a lot of people my age, you get to be 50 and you've been skateboarding for 40 years and you've got a pretty good name for yourself in the skateboard world. And I realize that my, participation in the skateboard world is pretty like, it's on a pretty big level. And I'm with, the guys like Lance Mountain and Christian Soy and Jeff Grosso. Like I'm Dwayne Peters, Steve Olson.
Right, a huge component.
That does make you feel happy. But at the same time, I don't want to live in the past. I want to live in the future. And what I do nowadays is more important than what I did then.
Right, because you're here now.
Yeah, because that's the thing. Some dudes like live in the past still. Like I did this then, I did that then. I go, dude, it ain't about that, man. It's about what you can do now.
Right.
And that's the thing is, too, where like, the whole athletic thing comes into play, where like, I could still skate.
I know.
On a pretty damn good level because I take care of myself more than some of the other dudes that can't really do. They can still skate and they can still frontside grind and maybe they can carve and do right, but they're not doing airs. They're not going over shallow stairs. They're not, in the backyards like we are. Because that's the other thing that separates me too. Is one of my foot is in the pro world, but my other foot is like in the backyard world. And the backyard world is a completely different thing from the pro world.
It's the jungle.
Yeah.
Right. Because again, you're going out there, in the trenches still because you choose to. You like that.
Yeah.
You feed off it.
I get off on it.
Right.
I'm not gonna lie because half the thing when you're like in a pool is like the first shit you got to deal with is the cops. You don't want to get caught because you don't want to get thrown in jail.
You can't just go there and skate like at a park. Like there's all kinds of obstacles you got to overcome just to get to the skate spot.
Yeah. Well, not only that, you got to deal with cops. You got to deal with neighbors. You got to get the water out of the pool, or you got to get all the trash and all whatever's in the pool. They put in the pool to keep you out of the pool. And then we have this thing, a 15-minute rule, where like it takes people 5 minutes for them to realize you're in there, 5 minutes for them to call the cops, and 5 minutes for the cops to respond.
Right.
So generally, if you live by the 15-minute rule, you hardly ever get caught.
Hard to get busted for.
I'm not going to say you don't because you do. And I've been caught pretty recently where I got thrown in jail again. And dude, I hate getting thrown in jail. It sucks. You got to go overnight. You got to go pay your fine. It's just a nightmare.
Really quick, as far as being picked up, now, the whole skateboarding is not a crime thing, right? I mean, that's where this all comes from, too.
Yeah, but it is true, though. Skateboarding is a crime.
Right. Street skating, you get kicked out of spots.
Yeah.
So that's a serious question I have is like, so when you get busted for skating a pool, what are the repercussions?
I mean, it can vary.
Just like city and county?
Yeah, it varies from, exactly. I mean, okay, if you're in Beverly Hills,
right,
more than likely they're going to throw the book at you because they all have the money and they have the lawyers to go get the book at you. Now, if you're in San Bernardino and Riverside, you say you're like up in Sylmar, you're up in Lancaster, chances are the cops are going to completely hassle you because they're gang-infested areas and the cops will go off on you and they'll treat you like shit.
Right.
But in the long run, maybe one of those cops, like, oh, dude, I know who you are, Sal. I've seen you skate pipeline in the old days. Maybe he's a 40-year-old cop. Or he's a 38-year-old cop.
Saw you in person
or they skated before, or they know skating, because that happens quite a bit.
Right.
Where like most of the cops, if their cops are anywhere from 20 to say 50, chances are they've skated or surfed, and they most of the time, chances are they've heard of me. Or the other best thing I get all the time is, Alba. So you're Jessica Alba's cousin, right? And I go, as a matter of fact, I am, sir. No, you're not. You're just bullshit. No, as a matter of fact, my Uncle Joe is his cousin. It's his son. It's his son's daughter, and that's how it works. My family's big. My dad's family have 13 brothers and sisters in it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And every one of those brothers and sisters has at least 3 to 4 kids. My dad's the only one. We only have 2 kids in my family.
You and Mickey.
And my dad was also the only guy to marry a white lady in his family. So a lot of times, like some of the other family didn't really dig that. They kind of ostracized my mom a little bit too. Like they spoke Spanish around her, so she couldn't understand. And
right.
I kind of tripped. You know what I mean? I mean, they're all kind of cool now, but yeah. So I mean, I've seen that dynamic too. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
yeah. So it just depends on as far as like how they want to handle it.
It just depends where you're at.
Case by case basis.
You know what I mean? It depends.
I mean, so you can get thrown in jail.
Yeah, you can. And you can get trespassing fines, and if the people want to throw the book right there, they can make a citizen's arrest and get you arrested right there on the spot. And then it's usually California code PC code 602 is a trespassing code. And for me, in my case, I've had like at least 15, 60. So when I get there and the judge sees like, Mr. Job, you haven't learned your lesson yet. But a lot of times the judges actually kind of like know that I skateboard, or like the dude will tell them that, this is a pro skater, that guy's like kind of like Tony Hawk, blah, 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 blah. And I'm not going to say it doesn't help because it does. You know what I mean?
And then they get it.
Yeah.
Like, you're going there to like skate.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's put it this way, 95% of the time they know where they're just to skate. We're not there to hassle. But, a lot of times too is when you're in these, kind of run down neighborhoods, the speed freaks are all over the place. And
that's
the one thing is we have to battle the tweakers because they damage the pools too. And it's in the respect where they take all the pool filters out and take all the copper, or take it from the main power. And if they do any of that stuff, we get blamed for a lot.
Oh.
If there's any damages, they want to, let's say a homeowner who gets really pissed and really wants to press charge. Okay, this happened not too long ago where we were in San Bernardino. I ride for Santa Cruz.
Right.
An independent. And we were there filming some stuff for a video, and we were skating in a house which I thought was abandoned, foreclosed house. There was nothing in the house. Everything was gone. There was a lockbox on it. And the neighbors saw us. The neighbors got pissed. We had 3 cars. They took photos of the cars and us, but they didn't get the person who drove me didn't get his license plate or the really photos of us. They got everybody else but us.
Right.
So they took it to the police. The police contacted everybody, but through their license plates and got a hold of everybody. And the lady wanted to charge like $8,000 of damages, which we all know that we didn't cause that. You know what I mean? 'Cause it was just whatever. But the sad story of the thing is, to get the lady off our back and get everything done, they had to pay her $4,000, and then had to pay the lawyer $4,000. So it cost Santa Cruz $8,000. In this respect, we went and skated in the pool and got caught, and the police got involved. So that's the worst case scenario right there.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's, I'm not going to say that hasn't happened. It can't happen because it just freaking did happen.
Right.
And I have to say, for me, that's basically one of the nicest things I've been involved in. I've been involved in another one in Anaheim.
Mm-hmm.
We were skating this pool on Cotella. It was a really big pool, and it was we called it home plate. And same thing, the house had burned down. They were rebuilding it. We skated. At one point, we got caught. The kid knew who we were from skating. He said, okay, it's cool. Taught his dad how to pressing charges. And then the kid's like, dude, if you give me stuff on the side, I'll let you skate when my dad's at work, which we started doing. And then one day, the dad came home at like a lunch just out of nowhere on a surprise visit just to come home and get lunch for some stupid reason. He caught us and called the police on us. And then the police came, and we were just about out of there, just almost pulled it, but I left my wallet on the stairs of the shallow end. So we were parked a block away, so I had to go sneak back in as a dude's talking to the police. They were like on the right side of the building, not in the backyard yet.
You snuck back in and
I got my wallet and got back out full skate commando.
No way.
And I'm skating down the sidewalk to the right as I'm skating away, like a half block away, and another policeman pulled up and saw me jump the fence and skate away. So that's why they stopped me.
Oh.
They would have had me anyhow. My wallet was there, you know what I mean?
Right.
But anyhow, I got caught. So the dude was pissed because he knew we were already there. He had already told us not to skate, and he pressed charges against us. He wanted me to pay for damages for the pool. $30,000 he wanted to charge me to paint.
$30,000
to paint the pool and replaster the pool is what it been.
That's what it would cost?
So I had to go to court once. Went to court like the second time. Actually, it was the second time. The kid and the dad are like in the hallway, like waiting. We're all walk in, and the kid walks over to me. He's like, "I'm so sorry, Steve," because like he was letting us skate, like permission. Like we can't really tell the dad this because he's gonna get this kid in trouble with that. But that's what we're gonna say. So like halfway through the trip, we're doing this, talking. The lawyers are talking. I'm thinking I'm busted, dude. Right? So they have a recess, and right during the recess, the lawyer for the other guys are like, "Hey, can I talk to you, Judge?" And then goes to Judge, and the kid taught the dad how to press charges against me for some reason. Because the kid's all, dude, if you press charges against me, all the kids at school are going to know, like, I did it against Salba, and they're all going to, I'm going to be the biggest kook on earth. So that's basically what the kid told us.
Right.
And basically that's what went down. So I've been in that situation again where, like, I almost had to pay a shitload of money. And that's worst case scenario. That's probably the worst one I've ever been in for, like, a pool skating situation.
That's amazing, man. I mean, how much risk goes into it?
But that's worst case scenario right there.
Right,
I mean,
right.
Out of the 40 years I've been doing this, that's been the craziest thing that's ever happened to me. As far as, now I've paid $1,500. I paid $3,000. Paid $2,500. I paid $400. It just depends the fine. I've been caught in Cali. I've been caught in Arizona. I've been caught in Nevada. I've been caught in Texas. We got caught in Texas. We had to pay. It's like $1,700 was the fine, and then Texas you can't give it through the mail. You have to actually go back there. So it costs us a whole another plane ticket on top of that. Yeah, it was a complete nightmare.
Just time and money, man.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then the wife's all pissed because I just took $1,400 that can go to the. That's a freaking mortgage payment, right?
That's a mortgage payment right there.
Yeah. So like she's like, you need to get that money back somehow. So like 6 months later, I kind of taught this dude. Some guy because the skateboard market is big to buy old skateboards, and skateboards the pros kind of ride. And this guy went, "Hey, dude, I want that board that you got busted at it, but I want the exact board with the wheels." And I go, "Okay, well,
complete
dude,
board.
You pay me what my fine and all my plane ticket was. It's yours." So like he paid me, and I got all my money, recouped all my loss, and then,
for one board.
Yeah, and my plane ticket and stuff. So yeah, it worked out.
So
great.
It all works out, man.
Yeah,
so now, when it comes to pools, correct me if I'm wrong. I've seen this in videos, but I'm not sure how often you do it. Have you cruised in planes looking for pools?
Yeah, I have.
And you've done that frequently, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to say I haven't, because I have. I mean, the thing is, in the skateboard world, most people think I'm one of the most hell-bent, gnarliest guys out there because I go to such extreme lengths to do what we do. And I've had opportunities where I've had friends who skate with us who are pilots and learned to be pilots at Cable Airport, which is also in Upland. So we would take off out of Cable Airport or Brackett Airport, which is in Laverne, and fly over our area or fly to Rialto, which they have an airport out there in Rialto, right off the 210, and that's where all the sheriffs for like their area land and take off. You know what I mean? So a lot of these little airports, like Cable supports like the sheriff helicopters for
patrol.
Yeah. So, but basically, so I had two good pilots. One guy's named Ron Burks, and one guy's name's Alex Cavalete.
Nice.
And they're both pilots to this day still. And Ron like flies Learjets for people all over the world. And Alex lives in Costa Rica now and flies stuff down in Costa Rica for the Conservatory of Costa Rican government. And they go map out the Osa Peninsula and stuff down there.
Wow.
But with both pilots, I've flown all over our area in the Badlands, Rialto, San Bernardino, look for pools. We found, every time we go up, we find them too. We take photos. The best way to do it is you take GPS thing, markers, and you can mark them that, and then you get on the ground. That's a good way to do it too. But I like taking photos and having either a cell phone or a radio. You can talk to dude right on the ground.
Wow.
And you have like the best way is you have 2 or 3 teams on the ground, like 2, 3, 4 cars with your buddies on there, and you just like you fly over an area and you just direct them in. And we've done that a couple of times. You know what I mean? We're like, if you know an area really well, and the other thing is kind of hard when you're flying from a helicopter or a plane, because we've flown in helicopters too. We've rented helicopters for fuel. I used to do a lot of stuff for Fuel TV before they went all crazy and went whack job, because they used to be kind of rabid. Now they're just lame. But when they were cool, they actually give us budgets to go make these skateboard kind of like video content for their channel.
Like production costs, right?
Yeah, exactly. And a couple of times they let us like rent helicopters. The best way is helicopters, because you can go lower than a plane. A plane, you have like a 2,500-foot ceiling for the most part, especially because we're by Ontario Airport. Anytime you're by a big major airport, you can't fly
as high.
Yeah, and you got to kind of be careful in their little zone. But helicopter, man, you can like drop dive, dude. You're like tilting the helicopter like this. We're like in jump seats, the straps, so you won't fall out, and you're like tilted, like taking photos. Yeah, so you got a helicopter. That's by far the best trip. And Bob Burnquist is another pretty big skater in the skate world. He's just got his own private helicopter.
Oh, there you go.
He took Lance Mountain up like 6 months ago.
You
and they looked over El Monte and Altadena and over there. So Bob's like, dude, I'm going to come to your house one day and I'm going to meet you in Rialto. You're going to come drive over there. We're going to look for pools. We'll find pools.
That's awesome.
I'm all like, dude, let's go. I'm there.
Pick you up. Now, let's talk about the feeling that just went through your bones the first time you saw your own pro model. How old were you, and was that through Santa Cruz?
No, the first pro model I ever had was for Kryptonics. That's where my Salba nickname came from, because they couldn't fit my whole name on the board. So when I first saw it, I was a little upset that, you can't fit Steve Alba on there, but it just said S.Alba.
S.Alba.
So that's why people started calling me Salba, was through that graphic.
Oh, wow.
So when I turned pro, I didn't have a board out yet. I rode for other companies before I had my pro model. You know, and one of my biggest sponsors before that was Alva. I used to ride for TA, and I wanted a board through TA, but TA at that point wasn't like going to give anybody a pro model on his company.
Right.
And I've talked to Tony since then, and Tony's like, dude, it wasn't me, it was Zender. Pete Zender was like the big money guy at that time for his company, and Zender was telling Tony, I can't have anybody else like get on your same astral plane. You got to, But anyhow, it didn't happen. Right. I wanted a model with Alva so bad, and I rode for TA for a long time, and I won the Big O contest on an Alva board. So the very first Spring Valley contest, I won the first contest. They had the Hester series, and there was 4 contests in that series. They had Hester number 2 the following year, 4 contests in that series. But the very first Hester series, I won the first contest, and I won the 4th contest in that series. So that's the other thing I don't really get credit for is, and I don't really like floating my boat too much, but that's something I'm kind of proud of, is like I won 2 contests in the first series. And that's something that no one's ever done to this day. You know what I mean? Like, that's my little claim to fame. I could say, like, even Tony Hawk hasn't really, and not Tony, because we all love Tony. Tony's the raddest dude ever. And he's definitely accomplished way more than all. I mean, like, I got like a little bitty finger compared to what he's got talent, you know what I mean? He's got like a whole handful of talent, you know what I mean? But anyhow, just for like an old 50-year-old fart, that's like, I could say like, dude, I won the first 2 contests in the Hester series. That they can't take that away from me, you know what I mean?
Right,
so
first
I was
tour
riding for
contest.
Alva on the Big O contest, the second one I won. So anyhow, I won that second contest, and I when basically at that time, that's how you got a pro model. You had to win a contest. Nowadays, like, you just get a video part, you get a board.
Right.
It's like those days you had to really earn it, right? You know what I mean? Let's say you don't earn it now because it's still the same trip. It's just different. Times are different, you know what I mean?
Right.
But anyhow, so like I didn't get my model on Alva, and I was kind of bummed. And I was riding Kryptonic wheels already, so Kryptonic says, hey, we'll give you a board. And I go, okay, well, sure, and have my own name on it and all that. It was great. But then again, at that point in time, because I was one of the biggest skaters at that time, like out of, say, Alva and out of Stacy, and then out, say, Steve Olson, I was probably like the next dude. The big, so like back in those days, I was selling 10,000 boards a month for Kryptonics. But then they kind of couldn't keep up with
the demand,
so to speak, and all these, their boards were falling apart and breaking, and people were sending them back. And then somehow they went bankrupt, and they owed me all like $40,000
back then.
Yeah, which is a shitload of money in today's market. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
40 grand then is probably like 80 grand now.
Right.
But they didn't pay me, and they sold the company to this other guy, and they tried to like appease me, and I was like pissed because like I was like one of the number one, like on a skateboarder poll, like it was Steve Olson and me, or Alva. It was like us three. You know what I mean? This is even before Dwayne was even in the scene yet. Dwayne was there skating, but not skating contests and not really up to the level we were at quite yet. You know what I mean? But then after Kryptonics and they went bankrupt, and I was furious. You know what I mean? Like, fuck you guys. You know what I mean? Like, how dare you? Like, I've spent all this time and effort trying to build the brand.
And then they just kind of slide out.
And now you're not going to pay me the money you owe me? Like, I'm over it later. And then I remember they had a big contest for the Hester series, was the second one I was telling you about, in Boulder, Colorado, which was their hometown. It was Kryptonics' place. And like, I should have won the contest because I was the favorite, but I didn't happen that way. My little brother ended up winning, and I was like really into punk rock, and I got pissed because I wasn't skating as good. And I shot my board in the air like really high, and like all the Kryptonics brass was like super, like, you gotta be like Bjorn Borg and be like this professional tennis players and like wear your little shorts and your hair, and I'm like, dude, this is punk rock and skateboarding. What are you talking about? You're out of your freaking mind. I ain't doing that shit. Fuck you. And Steve Olson's all like, dude, come ride for Santa Cruz. And that's how the whole Santa Cruz thing started.
That's how it started.
Yeah, so then I switched to Santa Cruz, and then had my more models on Santa Cruz, like the Bevel.
Yeah.
Which is S Alba, it's the same thing, Salva Bevel. Was the first board on the market with concave. So that was kind of another first. My board on the market.
So the first board with concave on the market. Wow.
Yeah. So looking back, that's kind of a big step too, as far as skateboard technology goes. Having concave on your board, that was a big deal. You know what I mean?
That's killer.
Not to say that Kryptonics had a little bit of a, but not really. They were more flat than But the Bevels really had like a, really a lot of concave. You know what I mean? Or some people said it had so much concave you can like eat your cereal bowl out of it. That was like the running joke in those days. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So how long have you been with Santa Cruz?
I've been with Santa Cruz off and on since probably like 80. Gosh, so I quit. That Boulder contest had to be 79, so like 80.
Wow.
I rode for Santa Cruz in like 80.
Yeah.
Olson was on the first, and then I got on, then Dwayne got on after I did. And then, so then I rode for Santa Cruz from like 80 all the way up to like 90, like 10 solid years, and then like that's when the whole street thing started, and they cut everybody's salary, and that's when like all the vert guys were like just whole faded.
Right.
And then it was like bad times, and Santa Cruz, at that point I was getting like $2,000 salary, and then like the next month I get like 15. Then the next month I get like $1,000. Then the next month I get like 9. And then the following month I get 750. And then the following month I get 5. And then the next month I get 250. And the next month I get nothing. And it's happened like in a matter of like 8 months.
Wow.
Like, and all of us, it wasn't only me, it was like me, Jeff Grosso, Ross Cobb, everybody who rode for Santa Cruz.
That whole school.
Hasoy, So then the whole this thing just falls apart. We go get jobs. I start working for Golden Voice.
I didn't know you worked for Golden Voice.
Yeah, I worked for Golden Voice for like a long time. We did all this show production for shows forever.
Yeah, I know Golden Voice.
So that's the other thing. It's like
Golden Voice has roots in Pomona.
Yeah.
So you know those guys?
Yeah. I've known all those dudes forever. So like that's where like Paul
Tilley, right?
So, like, and I used to play with his brother Perry. my old band, the Flamethrowers, used to play with Paul's band, his ska band, a lot in our area.
Wow.
So it's like, it's a small world how it all works out that way. But I did production for a long time. We worked with Ray and Kevin for a long time, and then we started getting contracted through their trip, Arcade Diversified, and then Kevin and them split, and Kevin does the Warped Tour, and then we all start working for Golden Voice.
Yeah.
And then Golden Voice kind of gets smart and gets their own crews, which they took handpicked from Kevin and Ray and Fred Saunders, which they were still us. You know what I mean? And then we did that for a long time. And then skating kind of started picking up again. Or like, I had my kid, the first kid in 91, I was still working for Golden Voice, still doing music production. And then skating kind of comes up, and the Warped Tour comes up with Kevin. And then what happened before Warped Tour, they had this gig at the Velodrome.
Born in South Bay.
Yeah.
That was the catalyst for Warped Tour, right?
That was a rad gig, though.
I remember that.
So that show, we had all the bands. We had 2 stages like Warped Tour. We flip-flopped the stages.
That was the blueprint for Warped Tour, right?
Yeah, it really was. And there was a skateboard ramp in the middle of the whole thing. And I was in charge of building the skateboard ramp and getting all the skaters because they knew I skated. So that was kind of my end of that whole world. So out of the production world, I flipped from like music production to like skate production within the music production trip.
That's awesome.
You know what I mean? So I did that for a while. And then I built the ramps for like Vans, built the ramps. I did the Warped Tour for like 10 years, 9 years, whatever.
I had no idea.
Built all the ramps for that every day. We went from like wood ramps to metal ramps to like really crazy all access design, totally perfectly scanned ramps. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So we did that for a while. But at the same time, I was skating, and skating kind of took off again. And I started making a little bit more money in skating again. And then it just eventually I started making, I don't make a lot in skating, but enough to where, I get some bills paid. You know what I mean? I get some shoes for the kids. If I need some stuff for the kids, if I need a board, I get some stuff for, if I need some clothes.
Right.
So in that respect, that's kind of cool because we don't go shop at Target. My wife might go.
Yeah.
But me and the kids,
you're all set.
We get skate gear.
Right.
Or if we're not doing that, we go thrift shopping. We go thrift shopping all the time.
You guys like that?
Yeah, I love thrift shopping. I've done that forever. You know what I mean? So
that's killer, man. So lastly, talking about the skateboarding world, I know that you surf. How does the two, skateboarding and surfing, complement each other?
Well, it's kind of funny because back when I was a kid, and this goes back to that same contest I was telling you about, that second contest I won at Big O for the first Hessa series. Not only did I win $1,000 for that contest, I won a moped and a surfboard. So I won a surfboard. So I need to start surfing then. And I tried, and I was kind of getting it. But then one day at Huntington Beach, I tried to surf some big waves, which I shouldn't have, looking back, shouldn't have done it with like 10 footers at least. And I nearly drowned. Like, it's the one time in my life where, like, I'm sure everybody's had these couple scares in your life where you think you're going to die.
Truly think that's it.
Truly think, and I truly thought I was going to die that day. I was like coughing up, seawater, puking seawater. Dude, that was gnarly. I swear to God, I should have died that day. I don't know how I'm even living. I should have died that day. You know what I mean? And there's been a couple things in my life where, like, I can't even believe I've actually pulled it. And, some people that never happens to them in their life. Mm-hmm. But for what we do for skating and just because I'm a thrill seeker, dude. And like what I think is not, let's put it this way, what scares my wife does not scare, there's certain things, like the light's turning yellow, like you're gunning the light just to make it, like you're going faster, and she hates when I do that, but I'm not, it's a speed thing, you know what I mean? It's like, right. It's like skating, you got to learn how to go fast and slow and when to back off, when, you know what I mean? It's the thing. So it's just,
That's cool, man.
Yeah, so I don't know.
One thing I want to touch on is the Salva Cruz brand. That's your own line.
Yeah. That's for Santa Cruz.
Yeah, I saw that.
It kind of happened originally back in the tail end of the 80s. I had a board with a baby on it. We had gone to Norway and spent like the whole summer in Europe. And there's this dude named Gustav Vigeland. He has all these sculptures in Norway. They're pretty amazing. So you ever get to go to Vigeland Park in Norway, in Oslo, it's crazy. He's got all these sculptures there. But anyhow, he's got this thing. It's called the Angry Boy. This like baby sculpture thing. And so I made that in my graphic. But I wanted to have, instead of like the Santa Cruz, I wanted to say Salva Cruz as a joke back then.
Right.
So I made all the lettering and did it. So that's kind of how the whole thing germinated, I guess, where the whole seed was started was then. And it was on one of my production boards. So my last 2 production boards, the top screen actually said Salva Cruz on it. So I always wanted to do this, and then Santa Cruz, how it all happened, they wanted me to skate for Santa Cruz for that. I kept no, you guys kind of burned me. I'm over your whole trip. You know, you got all these wacky dudes that skating on the team, like street guys that that's not Santa Cruz. But then they got a new team manager and things started kind of turning around. And they got some pretty good guys who were skating that I really thought were like better skaters than some of the previous. Not that because they're all talented. Everybody who skates, who gets to the pro level, it's just like pro sports, man. If you're that level, you're good, really good. I don't care who you are. I don't care what level you're, whether you're pool, street, downhill, whatever. If you're that level, you're freaking gnarly. You know what I mean? So anyway, they started kind of getting some more guys, and they got like Jason Jesse back on, like Eric Dressen, who like my buddies from the old days. You know what I mean? Like my best friends. Like we're boys. We've skated all over the world and traveled together. Then they got guys like Emmanuel Guzman and Josh Borden.
Great street skaters. All-around skaters.
Justin Strubing. There's so many guys on the team. I spaced some of their names. I feel bad because they're all really good friends of mine. Like Sid Melvin's another guy who's really good. But anyhow, they want to do these reissue boards and kind of reissue like the old Salva Cruz Tiger or the Witch Doctor. So I kind of did that. We want you back on, get on the veteran team. And I just thinking like, vet, that sounds like old guy. I'm not a vet. Like I'm fucking still skating, like more than anybody, like hardcore and
backyard,
more than whatever, doesn't matter. Like I skate more than anybody, you know? So dude, I'm not a vet. So eventually I kind of like jumped back on board. But the main reason I jumped back on board is because it let me kind of have my little Salva Cruz line within the Santa Cruz division.
Yeah, and that's
so I've had my own boards, my own shirts, stickers, that kind of thing, and it's kind of cool. So
it's
right
like
now,
your own trip then.
Yeah, so we're still working on that. We got a whole bunch of new stuff coming out. 2 or 3 new boards we're working on right now for the graphics. A couple new stickers. I'm trying to get a windbreaker out.
That's right.
And then we got like a little web series, like you know how they Grasso love letters.
Yeah.
We're trying like a little thing like that with like Sink or Swim, which is the back of this.
Okay, so that's gonna be like your newsletter.
Yeah, it's like a little thing on the Santa Cruz website. If you go in there, like Strange Notes, we're gonna have like 4 or 5 episodes. There's only 1 up so far, but we're working on that. So there's a lot of stuff in the can, like as far as the skate stuff goes. And then I'm just trying to get better because I've had this damn broken collarbone since November 4th is when I did it. I did it the same day that Aaron Rodgers broke his. Wow. So I'm a very avid Green Bay Packer fan. And I broke my collarbone that morning, and all my friends who skate that know I like the Packers, like, called me that afternoon, like, dude, you broke your bone, and now Aaron Rodgers broke his. Like,
on the same day.
Like, what's up with that? So I was so pissed the day that he played football. Like, God, I can't even skate yet. You know, like, I probably could skate, but the doctors saw if you skate now and actually break it again and re-break it, then I'm going to have to put a plate and a pen, and you're going to be out another 6 to 8 months on top of what you've already done. I'm like 3 months in and a couple of days at the 4th.
So you just want to like let it mend the way it should be.
Well, I mean, it looks gnarly now, but the doctor's all, dude, I'm not going to plate it because I just know who you are and I know what you do. And the funny thing is my doctor, his nurse, and one of the ladies at Kaiser, Ontario, Lynette, I used to go to high school with both of them, and they both know me forever.
Right.
And they both told the doctor what I do and who I am and blah, blah, blah. So the doctor looked me up on some videos. And I came in and seen the second time. I was like, dude, I had no idea. Like, you're a pro skateboarder. And like, dude, you're crazy. Like, wow, like, I had no idea. Like, you're gnarly. And the other thing is like, you're looking pretty good for a 35-year-old dude. I'm like, 35? I'm 50. He's like, what, 50? So he was tripping on that too, you know what I mean? But anyhow, my next appointment's the February 20th, and I'm hoping to skate by March. That's my goal. I got another month right now, and I'm really hoping by then I'll be ready to go.
Killer.
So I've been trying to get strong. It's just, I had a bad break, three major snaps in the collarbone. So, yeah. And the thing, I broke this one on this side. It's funny because, like, the more I get hurt, it seems like I've been getting kind of hurt a lot lately, too. Like, the last 2 years, I sliced my leg right here really good. Right there.
How'd you do that?
That's from the bathtub, of all things. I was kind of falling in the bathtub and went to put my foot on the wall to save myself, but it was like half on the wall, half on the soap dish. And I went to stand back up, and the soap just snapped, and my leg was on the porcelain soap dish. Just sliced me.
How many stitches was that?
God, that was like, I want to say it was at least 40, 60, something like that. It was a shitload.
That's
I had some money inside. I still have nerve damage. I had cut my muscle, cut my tendon, and I have major nerve damage to this day. Like, I can't feel the top of my foot or my whole area in here. This whole area is dead. This whole area is dead. I can't feel it.
Nothing.
There's no feeling for the nerve.
Oh, man.
So I dealt with that for like couldn't really skate the contest last. Well, I skated the contest last year. The year before, I couldn't skate because of that. And then I got better, and then I did this stupid thing. And my kid Jesse just broke his collarbone 2 summers ago, then hit a rail last summer and crushed his urethra. So he had to have his urethra actually rebuilt so he can actually pee. Because he had to wear like what do you call those things that you got to wear, you got to pee into for a while?
I know what you're talking about.
But he had to use that for like 6 months. So
I had no idea he got hurt like that.
Oh, yeah, he was, yeah. So my wife's been just like, man, if it ain't you or one of the other kids, or then on top of that, my other kid, Riley, was bombing a hill and hit his head, got a concussion, had to take him to the doctor. So it's like the whole family's case, and this is like, we're getting wrecked always. And like all our friends, and my wife's friend, like, she's a principal, and like all her teacher friends and all, like, whatever, like, what are you guys ever going to stop? You know what I mean? So, but it's in your blood. It's just one of those things like you do. You can't stop until you're in the ground. You know,
right? And that probably keeps you youthful. You know, the doctor's saying you look young. You know, what you do. I mean, it keeps you youthful.
I mean, this way, I'm not your average 50-year-old. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Most 50-year-old dudes are pretty much fat, old.
I meet a lot of people,
belly dudes, whatever.
I meet a lot of people through the show. You know, doing a lot of episodes, and it's all walks of life. You know.
Yeah.
And, you know, I meet guys my age that are 39 that, like, it just look like they'd have got no steam, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, what do you do, man?
Yeah.
You know, so anyways, listen, you brought some music, some of your music.
Yeah.
And we're going to listen to some tracks.
Okay.
When we come back, we'll talk about what we listened to.
Right.
But then we're going to get into a music discussion.
Okay.
So let's hear your tunes.
Okay.
And yeah, let's just hit the play button and take a little break and listen to some Steve Alba on guitar.
Try it again. Wait. Okay. rice and cheese for my niece.
All right, welcome back to the 111th episode of Los Angeles Nista. In studio guest Steve Alba. Salva, how are you, man?
Good.
You broke out the axe. I was pleased to see you come with a guitar. I wasn't expecting that.
This thing goes with me everywhere.
That's pretty rad. You know, we just heard some tunes. Let's talk about what we heard.
I know one of the songs was 6 Feet Under. We just recorded some more stuff. And the first record we made, Powerflex 5, was called The Spaniard. It's all instrumentals because mostly that's kind of what we were really playing at the time. We had made a band and like swore off singers, so to speak, because we were sick of the singer drama.
Right.
So we just figured we let our guitars make the melodies and do the singing for us.
That's great.
But then, like, when you're playing that way, only so many people respond to that kind of music in a sense where, like, you have to be a musician to actually kind of understand it more. If you're just playing in the audience, some of them might get it, but for the most part, they want to hear you singing. They want to hear songs as opposed to, like, instrumental songs. So we've been really doing that a lot more lately. So the new record we're working on is Powerflex 5 and Heavy Friends. some of our friends who actually come and sit in with us and sing. Because we don't really have like a vocalist, so to speak, in the sense that we don't have a band with a front man. I sing a lot of the punk rock stuff. So when we do that, but if we're playing some of the rootsier stuff like I was playing earlier, we have a guy named Jerry O'Sullivan who plays with us.
Yep.
He's in a band called Claremont Voodoo Society, and he works at the Claremont Folk Music Store.
Cool.
That's where Ben Harper's from.
Yep.
That's Ben Harper's mom and dad run that place. So
they own that shop, right?
Yeah. So he's there quite a bit still, to this day. So Jerry's been working there for quite a long time. And one of the other singers we have is Tara Tabby. She sings like Cherry Bomb and this one song called Time to Ride I wrote. So the thing is for me is I write a lot of songs constantly. Every week I'm writing songs.
It's awesome.
And it's just a matter of trying to find a voice to sing the song because I'm not the best singer and I realize I'm not the best singer. I can convey how I want it to sound, but my voice isn't as strong as say like Jerry or Tara or Brian Brandon from JFA sits in with us a lot. He'll come play. And Kurt Ross is another guy from the Flamethrowers, my other old band that comes and sits in and plays with us. And Chuck Holtz, who's a skater that does Deck Crafter Brandon in Costa Mesa. He comes in and plays some punk rock with us. And mostly with Chuck, we do a lot of new wave. Like Joe Jackson, I'm the Man, B-52s, you know what I mean? That.
Yeah.
And then I do Devo Gut Feeling, stuff like that. And another friend who sings with us here and there is Vince Dennis, and he's my buddy from Body Count. The guy who used to live with me for a long time.
Right.
We've kind of grown up in the punk rock skating thing forever, and he lives in North Hollywood now and just kind of does his own trip. Does a lot of teching for bands. He's worked for Prince, Katy Perry, stuff like that. Does keyboards and guitar. Kind of like how our other guitar player, Tracy Robar, the other guitar player in our band, he works for Flea, for the Chili Peppers. So right now he's back east because they're going to play this weekend at Super Bowl.
Right.
So when we practice Thursday night, we're not going to practice with Tracy because we just got to practice for our show next week, But then I'll send some of the practice tunes from practice. We'll record it, and then he can listen to it on the internet and go, okay, here's a new song. We got to whatever, you know what I mean?
Very cool. Now, personally, your musical taste, let's talk about Salva and music. I mean, you grew up punk rock, but you draw inspiration from different genres. Let's talk about the kind of punk that you were into and went to go see and other genres of music that you're into.
Yeah, well, originally, when I first got into music, I got into punk rock originally because I was just sick of the hair bands. I was sick of 10-minute solos, sick of, Zeppelin and, Fleetwood Mac and REO Speed Buggy and Journey and all that kind of shit. All that dinosaur crap that, I can't even believe, Journey made a comeback of that Sopranos crap. But, yeah, so I was never into that, ever.
You thought it was lame?
Yeah, I thought it was completely lame. I still think it's lame as day. You know what I mean? So, and even some metal, I was never into Scorpions or Judas Priest or any of that shit either. You know what I mean? I was over it. I was more into all the LA punk bands. I was really into Black Flag and the Circle Jerks. I really liked those guys a lot and the Weirdos. And I really liked the Dead Kennedys from San Francisco and the Avengers. And then I really liked the Clash a lot, and I really liked the Cramps, the Ramones. I mean, I liked a lot of music from all over. And I think it all comes back to hanging out with that Gary Lazone guy and seeing these magazines in his
wow.
room.
All goes back to him, right?
Back to seeing these Alice Cooper and David Bowie, and then that led to the New York Dolls, and then from the New York Dolls that led to Mark Bolan and T-Rex, and then every kind of I'm the kind of guy I really like history, and I'm a history freak. So if I get into something, I'm kind of okay, well, so where'd Bowie get his trip from? And then he was really into T-Rex, you know what I mean? But T-Rex, if you look back, is he's very simplistic, and he was really into Eddie Cochran. You know what I mean? So all these dudes, I was really into Clash a lot too, and they kind of had tinges of rockabilly with Brand New Cadillac. So I go, where'd that come from? And that came from Vince Taylor.
So you like to find the roots of things.
Yeah, so Vince Taylor's an American. Why is he recording in England? But he was one of the American guys that actually went to England, along with Gene Vincent and Eddie Cochran, that kind of went really wild over there, and the people really accepted him. And when Jerry Lee Lewis went over there, they kind of threw him out because they couldn't. The British are very Victorian in their sexual whatever. So they freaked out, like, he's doing his second cousin kind of trip, whatever. Even though
that's the truth.
It is the truth, and it's gnarly to say, but that's the truth. But anyhow, even though the English have, like, when you go there, if you've been there, there's these sex shops all over where there's like sporting bondage gear. So, but it's all in the closet there. It's not in the open. And here in America, it's like in the open, kind of like, you know what I mean? Where the rest of Europe is all in the open, but England's kind of. So anyway, they just freaked out on Jerry Lee Lewis, being like a. That's all I'm getting at. Like, I was really into, like, well, if they're pissed off at him, like, I want to know why, and like why, So I just was really in all the history of all those stories, like Little Richard, and Chuck Berry, and all those old rock greats, like Link Ray, and then that kind of like led you into the '60s, where you kind of start getting like proto trash punk rock kind of stuff, like some of the Mexican bands playing like La Bamba, or like doing versions of the Beatles, just like almost like. So I like all the rock that's kind of like raunchy. Right. I always call it trash can rock. So it's like guy in a trash can just shake it all around. You get that real metallic.
Yeah. And real loose kind of vibe. Yeah.
But then, like, when I really got into punk, I was really into Ramones at first, because they just took rocking like a 145 and just downstrokes. That's the thing is, like, when you're playing punk rock, and I'm sure you kind of attest to this, you can't do it like this.
You can't go up and down.
Yeah, it's like
downstroke.
Yeah, it's downstroke, man. That's the whole.
Exactly.
And that's what gives it its power, and that's what gives it like it's the buzzsaw guitar, like the Ramones talk about. That's where Steve Jones, another guy from the Pistols, I really dug.
Right.
And Johnny Thunder was another guy I really dug, because I can kind of play like those guys. They weren't like very accomplished like a Jeff Beck or a Clapton, who like I wish I could play like. But I know I'm never going to play like those dudes, man. You know what I mean? So I kind of stuck with more like rhythm dudes, like Poison Ivy, like Joe Strummer from The Clash, a very good rhythm player. Keith Richards, I'm a full Keith Richards freak.
Awesome.
Where like he's just more about the rhythm. He plays pretty rad leads too, but he's more of a simplistic dude as opposed to like a Duane Allman and I really like blues a lot. I really like our band we call it Electric Gumbo. And what I try to do is take all these bits and pieces from all the stuff I like a quarter of Cajun music, like a pinch of punk rock,
nice,
a tad of blues, like a teaspoon of like funk or whatever. So all these genres of Americana music that I really like, whether it's folk, Cajun, funk, blues, rock and roll, like Little Steven. I dig some of the stuff he does with Underground Garage. Even though he's like in a big band with Springsteen, he's a pretty phenomenal guitar player in his own right. I dig dudes like that. It was almost like the working class dudes I dig, you know what I mean? Like I dig like, some of the people like knock on U2, and I don't really like all their stuff, but there's a couple songs I dig that they just have these overtones, just almost like Smashing Pumpkins. There's a couple songs that are just the audio overtones of them just sound so rad. And Weezer's the same way, where they play in the half step down. They have this overtone that you can't really get it unless you have a half step down kind of trip. So there's different things I like for different reasons. I like pop music because it's on the radio here and there. I'm not gonna like Britney Spears or whatever, but I think of Weezer's a pop band.
Right, they
kind of are. But
Foo Fighters,
and like Foo Fighters, and like the Buzzcocks, Descendants. I really like that kind of poppiness that those kind of bands bring. But at the same time, I really like the roughness and gruffness of like a Link Ray and like a Poison Ivy from the Cramps. At the same time, I really like the looseness of the Johnny Thunders or like the Clash. So that's kind of what our kind of trip is. I mean, we can play anything from punk to rockabilly to blues, and depending who we play with, that's kind of always been at least my mindset, and I think we accomplished that. We can play with surf bands, we can play at Agent Orange, we can play at JFA, and people kind of still dig what we do because we'll play half punk, half instrumental at surf stuff.
Very cool.
It just kind of depends where we're at and what I'm listening to that week or what I'm into that month. I go through spells like I'm like on a surf kick right now. I'm just trying to relearn all the classic surf tunes. And my take is I don't try to like learn things note for note. I was never that kind of guy.
Mm-hmm.
I could never like learn Eddie Van Halen stuff because he's so fast. I mean, he's rad. I'm not gonna say he's not. I dig some of the stuff he does, but at the same time, people don't know he's a complete Les Paul freak and can play just like Les Paul. And I like that mode
aspect
more than I like the Van Halen mode. You know what I mean? Something that's always attracted to me to that kind of older music. And I don't know what it is. I think maybe what it is. My mom's from Texas originally.
Oh, really?
And she grew up in Texas as a kid. She actually saw Elvis as a kid when she was 13.
Whoa.
And would tell me the stories about seeing him. And I was like, oh, Elvis, like brass. Like I was like, so like that's so cool. that like you saw someone of that stature at one point. It's like seeing the Beatles and Stones back in those days.
Sure.
It's a kind of trip, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, dude, you saw Elvis. You saw Jerry Lee Lewis. You saw like Chuck Berry.
Let's talk about the show you got coming up.
Yeah. So the show we got coming up every year on my birthday, it's February 6th. We have it's just an excuse to play, really. You know what I mean? So, and then you kind of use the guilt trip in advertising. It's like, hey, if you don't show up, kind of, you know what I mean? But everybody likes to show up because we always put on a good show and people have fun and people dance. And really, like, when it really comes down to that's what music's all about. You know, even like the Grammys the other night, some stuff on there is cool, but for the most part, those dudes really aren't playing their own instruments. They're not writing their own songs. And to me, that's like, I really like that aspect where like bands are writing their own music, they're writing their own songs. They're not really like, everybody's influenced from something, but you just do it yourself as opposed to like have some songwriter come in and show you a thing and you're going to do it like that. It's like, that's cool, but it's not like, it's not real in the sense of
exactly.
Like, it's not like what's happening in the streets. Because I come from the streets as far as skating and pools writing, I kind of have that same approach to music where you try to like get your music across to people and like, you know, like yourself. Like I know Tim Kerr from the Big Boys, he lives in Texas and Austin. I send him my stuff. I send stuff to Sammy Yaffa. He used to be in Hannah Rock, so he used to play with the Dolls, and he's a good friend of mine I met through skating. So I send my music to these people that are important to me, and they make good music themselves. And I really like their music, like Jeff Ament from Pearl Jam's another guy. I know him real well, Pearl Jam, so I send him music sometimes just to get a little bit of feedback. Because those dudes are like the dudes, I'll never ever be like any of those dudes because they're like rock star dudes and live that life, like kind of how we've lived the skating life.
Right.
But at the same time, it's just something I've always done. It's my output. It's my creativity. Skating's very creativity. It's very creative, and music's very creative. Just like doing art is very creative. So a lot of skaters are very creative in the sense they're always trying to create something. Whether it's a line, whether it's a song, whether it's a melody, whether it's a piece of art, a print, a photo, some lyrics, a poem, whatever. So like myself, Lance Mountain, Steve Olson, Neil Blender, Chris Miller, Steve Caballero. Those are some of the guys right at the top of my mind that kind of live that way and are always creating stuff, you know what I mean? So
output is always happening, whether it's skating or through music or art.
Yeah, exactly. So I just kind of try to think about it that way. And, you know, I'm a lagger when it comes to getting shit done a lot of times because I'm Mexican and talk about Mr. Mignana, kind of like, I'll do it tomorrow. And my wife's like German, Von Helga, so she's like, do it now. So like, we always have like the yin and yang of, you know, come on. And when I do things, I really like give it my all and really
when you decide to commit, you go full on.
Yeah, like it's like all out or nothing. So if we're going to paint the house, dude, like I'm going to strip the whole thing. And, you know what I mean? So that's just kind of, you know, but the music's the same way. I really like the whole historic aspect of it. And I like the fact that, like, you can go to Dwayne's house and he's got some piece of paper where Steve Jones from the Sex Pistols was like, hey, happy birthday. That he's actually acknowledged Dwayne, you know, so someone like the forefather of acknowledging that. So I just the same kind of thing for us. We're like, as an older skater, you can acknowledge someone like a Rune Glifberg or Art Osari, like dudes who are a little younger than us, but are still keeping the flame going and keeping the tradition going, kind of thing. You know what I mean? So I think that's kind of rad. You know what I mean?
That is really cool. As far as you playing guitar, how long have you been playing guitar for?
I started late. I didn't start playing guitar until I was 18. So
really,
as far as like music goes, that's a very late start. And I always wanted to play guitar. My old girlfriend Vicky had a guitar, like an acoustic. I'd try to beat on it. I can make like a G chord. I can make like a C, maybe a D, but that's all I can.
That was about it. Huh?
You know what I mean? That's all I can really do. And it took me a long time because I've always been pretty much a self-taught guy. And then I did take lessons at the very beginning. And one of the things I still to this day I can't forget because he drilled it into me was this little blues progression. But anyhow, just the way he played it, and it took me forever to get the fingering because I make a chord like this. Like, I couldn't do that, dude. When you're first learning to play guitar in 6 months, you're trying to like teach you chords like that, you know what I mean? So that's the other thing is my first teacher used to play for Count Basie.
Wow.
And he taught me a couple of these progressions, you know what I mean? That so maybe that's why to this day I've always been attracted to those kind of chords and that kind of melody. And that's one of the things I learned, like the 6 months of playing guitar was that little line, you know what I mean? And this chord too, and to this chord, you know what I mean? So it literally took me 6 to 7 months just to even get the chords, to even get the whole melody.
Those are all
line
jazz
going.
chords.
Yeah.
So I mean, the fingering is
so
actually.
that's what he showed me. That was one of the first things I ever learned on guitar was that.
Wow.
So maybe to this day, that's why I try to attain playing those kind of. I mean, so it's kind of, you know. I really like jazz, even though I can't really play it. I want to learn more about it. I like those kind of chords where you kind of like can go like, kind of stuff like that, you know,
right.
Or like, yeah. So I mean, that's just one of my newest things I've been trying to learn. You know what I mean? And trying to learn where when you're playing a chord, you can do an arpeggio over the chords as opposed to just staying like in playing a 1-4-5 in E. Just, you know, instead of soloing in E the whole time, you know, you're playing, starting to play over the chorus. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Nice.
So
very cool. So as far as some of the guitarists that current day that you always look back to for inspiration or you like their sound, who are some of your favorite guitarists?
Well, like current guys, I mean, I'm a Setzer freak. I really like what he does. He's a monster. But outside of Setzer, because he's really jazz and he's always played jazz and learned to read and write when he was a kid, the guy I really like a lot that's kind of like not really a school guy is Horton Heat. I really like Horton Heat a lot. The guy's a monster. And he plays more country stuff as opposed to jazz. So like Setzer's kind of always relies on jazzy, swingy, where Horton Heat would kind of go more country kind of trip.
Right.
He plays rockabilly too. They're really good at both rockabilly. Another dude named guy who played with Jeff Beck, Imelda May has her name, and her husband. Gosh, I can't even think of the guy's name. Daryl Hyam.
Daryl Hyam.
Dude's amazing. Daryl Hyam. He's from England. He's really good, like rockabilly, blues. And you look him up on here. He can sit down and like teach you some stuff by just, you know, like playing like, you know, like. Almost like old swingy, kind of like almost like
country-ish,
like almost country swing kind of licks.
It's very cool. Yeah, exactly.
I like that guy. Those are like kind of the guy. I mean, I like Beck a lot. He's just a monster. I like him because he plays with his fingers. I like a lot of blues dudes, but I like a lot of punk guys too. I like one of my favorite bands of all time and my favorite guitar players of all time is Billy Zoom. And I like Billy Zoom a lot because he's very, he can play very fast, like the Ramones, but he can throw in licks that are so fluid. And the dude's he's a very underrated guitar player. People really don't know how phenomenal that dude truly is. Just like Ron Emery's another guy from TSOL.
Absolutely.
Like, Ron Emery's like a good friend of mine, and I used to skate with Ron quite a bit. We've known each other for years, mostly through skating, but my band would open for his band here and there.
Right.
But he's another phenomenal guitar. I really like what he does. O from Fluff is another guitar.
Yeah.
Like, I know O, and I like his approach because he approaches guitar a little bit different, where he plays in half step, 2 steps down. He's playing essentially in like open D, but he's not open D.
Okay.
It's like he just plays so down that he's still strumming like a regular guitar, but it's just 2 steps down. It's like he'd play half step down and like Van Halen's half step down.
E flat.
Weezer's had like a lot of blues guys were in E flat. Stevie Ray Vaughan, Thunderbirds, all E flat. That's got that tonality. Thin Lizzy's another guy who played in E flat a lot, man. That's the tone, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
US Bombs, Dwayne's band.
They play in E
all
flat?
their stuff's in E flat.
Really?
You know what I mean?
So they tune E flat and play regular towards each other.
Yeah. So
his does too. They're all in E flat.
So
It's
I
weird.
really like that a lot. You know, and I play with open tunings quite a bit. So I like a lot of folkier kind of dudes like Pete Seeger. I mean, even like I'm not really a Zeppelin freak, but I like what Jimmy Page does.
Right.
Especially like
you respect his framework that he's built.
Yeah. Well, I know he's like a complete old rock and roll freak, but he plays a lot of crazy acoustic stuff too.
Oh yeah.
Which I really like. You know what I mean? So, like I say, it just depends what flavor you're in that month. Whether you're acoustic, whether you're electric, whether you're surf, whether you're punk. You know what I mean? So it depends what I'm trying to learn that week or that month. I kind of like. I get like a 3-month kick of rockabilly, then a 3-month kick of like surf, and then a 3-month kick of like trying to like learn meters kind of funk riffs.
Awesome.
And then like, you know what I mean? So it all depends what I've heard, what's I'm playing on the iPod. But I've always got punk rock because just when you're skating, you want to listen to punk. And
yeah.
So I mean, even like a punk rock guitar player, I like Don Pendleton from JFA. I really think he plays pretty rad, and I really like dude from the Circle Jerks too. plays with Bad Religion, Greg Hetston. He's a pretty sick guitar player too, you know what I mean? So just
Big time.
Yeah, there's all kinds of dudes I like for different reasons. The dude in Pearl Jam, I went and saw those guys because Jeff got us in, and I guess
He skates, right? He skates. That's how you
that
know
guitar
him.
player is insane too, you know what I mean? So just there's all kinds of dudes out there. You know
That's
what I mean?
awesome, man. Well, I want to thank you for being a part of the 111th episode of Los Angeles
Thank you. I
Nista.
had a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Just hanging out,
and,
talking to me, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, and I can't wait for you to take us out and play some of your licks.
Yeah, so anything?
Anything you want.